This is a brand new pavilion built in the year 1325 to welcome home a Sultan of Delhi. It was a gift from his loving son. 3 quick things about the son. 1. He was, by nearly every account, one of the smartest men ever to sit on the throne of Delhi. 2. Every single brilliant idea he was ever going to have was about to end in disaster. And 3. Well, that beautiful pavilion he built, it fell down. And people definitely had questions. His father was inside. This is the story of Muhammad bin Tughlaq, the wisest fool ever to ruin an empire, and the terrified eyewitness who watched it happen and lived, barely, to write it all down. But first, where did this throne even come from? Quick version, because the backstory is genuinely unhinged. Around the year 1200, Turkic and Afghan warlords came down through the northwestern mountains and took the plains of North India. They planted themselves in Delhi, called it a sultanate, and then immediately began murdering each other for the top job. A lot. First came a dynasty founded by former slave generals. It even produced a rare woman ruler, Razia, who was promptly overthrown for the crime of being good at it. Then a clan called the Khaljis grabbed power. The crown of Delhi changed heads the way other jobs change interns. The throne of Delhi was, hands down, the most dangerous job in Asia. Keep that in mind. It comes back. The scariest tenant of all was a Khalji named Alauddin.
From today, I set the price of grain, and cloth, and horses, and frankly everything else.
Fix the prices, Sultan. The merchants will be furious. They'll riot.
Then the merchants may take it up with my executioner. The prices stay fixed.
And somehow, it worked. He needed a vast army on the cheap to hold off the Mongols hammering the frontier. So he simply froze the entire economy by decree. He crushed Mongol invasions. He sent his brilliant general Malik Kafur deep into the south, who came back dragging elephants groaning with gold.
The south is not for keeping Kafur. The south is for withdrawals.
For one shining moment, Delhi was strong, solvent, and absolutely terrifying. Naturally, it could not last. Alauddin died. His price controls were scrapped within months, and the murdering resumed, right on schedule.
The old Sultan is gone. The new one is also gone. I helped with that. The throne is mine now.
This is Khusrau Khan. He seized the throne in 1320 and held it for about 4 months. A strong performance for the era.
Why is nobody bowing? Why does everyone look so unconvinced?
Turns out, when you stab your way to the crown, the army gets ideas. And one soldier, out on the frontier, got a very big idea. Meet Ghazi Malik. Ghazi means warrior champion, a title he earned the hard way. He guarded the northwest frontier, where the Mongols came to raid. By the chronicles count, he beat them back some 24 times. He was the one man in the whole empire the Mongols genuinely did not want to see coming.
You murdered your way onto that throne, boy. I'm going to remove you from it.
You wouldn't dare. I am the Sultan.
You were the Sultan. Past tense.
In 1320, Ghazi Malik crushed the usurper and took the throne himself as Alauddin Khalji. A brand new dynasty, the Tughlaqs. He was steady, competent, a builder of grim grey forts. He was, in short, everything his son would go on to spectacularly not be. He threw up a fortress capital called Doulatabad, all sloping walls and bare grey stone. The Tughlaq architectural style, function over absolutely everything. Subtle as a fist, which for this family was about as gentle as it got. His son and heir was a prince named Jauna Khan. And Jauna was different. Jauna was gifted.
Father, I have been reading philosophy, medicine, mathematics, astronomy. I have concluded that I am almost always right.
That is not generally how being right works, son.
We'll see.
In 1325, Ghiatuddin came home from a campaign in the east. Jauna built him that lovely welcome pavilion we mentioned at the start. And it came down, with the old Sultan inside. He did not get up. Did Jauna engineer it? The sources genuinely can't agree. One says yes. One blames a freak bolt of lightning. One just shrugs and calls it fate. What we do know is this. The suspiciously convenient pavilion worked, and Jauna Khan became Sultan Muhammad bin Tughlaq.
I naturally had nothing whatsoever to do with it. Anyway, I have plans.
Now, one thing to get straight up front, because it matters. This is not a story of one religion against another. His court was a patchwork. Muslim nobles, Hindu officials, Persian scholars, Turkic soldiers. The people he'd tax, terrify, and execute came from all of them. This is a story about power, and one man who could not, for the life of him, stop outsmarting himself. Because in 1325, Muhammad inherited a vast empire, and within a few years, he'd pushed it to the largest the subcontinent had ever seen. From the Indus in the west, across the entire northern plain, all the way to Bengal in the east, and then down, improbably, across the Deccan, with a thin arm reaching almost to the southern tip. Nearly all of India under one throne. Not quite all of it. Kashmir stayed out. The deep south was claimed more than held. But still, this is about as much of India as anyone had ever ruled at once. Remember this map. Drink it in. Take a screenshot, because this is the high water mark, and from here, it is all downhill. On paper, he ruled almost the whole of India. The phrase "on paper" is going to be doing a lot of heavy lifting in this video. To see what happened next, we have a witness. A genuinely incredible one. Ibn Battuta, a young law scholar from Morocco, some 4,000 miles from home, who wandered into Delhi looking for work. He arrived to find a sultan whose royal processions flung actual gold and silver into the crowds. Ibn Battuta took one look and thought, yes, this is the place for me.
Your Majesty, I am but a humble traveler and a judge of the holy law.
A judge? Marvelous. You are now the chief judge of Delhi. Here is a staggering pile of gold. Do not disappoint me.
But I don't speak Persian and I don't really know the local law and...
Details. You will be magnificent, or you will be dead. I find both outcomes rather interesting.
Thank you.
And that was the Sultan in one scene. Wildly generous, casually terrifying, utterly certain. Ibn Battuta would spend years here, rich, honored, and very quietly counting the exits. Because make no mistake, Muhammad was brilliant. Not good at public relations brilliant. Actually, measurably brilliant. He debated philosophy and logic. He knew medicine and astronomy. He wrote elegant Persian poetry and beautiful calligraphy. He was, by a distance, the most educated man in his own empire. And that, it turns out, was exactly the problem. A man that clever, that certain he was right, surrounded by courtiers far too frightened to ever say, "Sultan, with respect, that is a terrible idea." So, let's talk about the ideas. Great ideas, genuinely, on paper. Idea number one. He looked at his giant empire and noticed Delhi sat way up in the north, while half his new territory was far away in the Deccan.
The capital is in the wrong place, so we move it south to Daulatabad, a second seat, central to everything.
A reasonable plan, Sultan. We build new offices and shift the government down over a few years.
No, everyone goes. The whole court. The scholars, the nobles, the clerks, the households, all of them. No.
Everyone. To a city 1,000 kilometers away, on foot.
And here's the maddening part. The idea wasn't even crazy. Daulatabad really was more central. A southern capital made genuine strategic sense. It's about 1,000 kilometers as the crow flies. The crow, however, was not asked to walk it carrying its furniture. And he tried to do it properly. He built a wide road, he planted shade trees, he set up rest stops along the way. But you cannot simply move a city. The court was marched south, through the heat, for weeks on end. The old, the sick, the poor. Many of them never reached Daulatabad at all. The road, in that heat, did what such roads do. And behind them, Delhi, one of the great cities of the world, fell silent. A traveler wrote that you could stand in its streets and hear nothing at all. And then, a few years later, Muhammad gazed around his lovely new southern capital and decided, actually no.
On reflection, the north was better. Everyone back to Delhi.
We only just got here.
So they marched all the way back. He had hauled his entire court 1,000 kilometers, twice, to end up precisely where they started, minus the people who died on the way. And minus the city's trust, which never quite came back. Idea number two. And honestly, this one was centuries ahead of its time. The treasury was low on silver. So Muhammad reinvented money. He would issue coins of cheap brass and copper, but declare each one worth a full silver tanka. Money that has value simply because the state guarantees it. If that sounds familiar, it should. It's basically how every banknote in your wallet works today. China had already tried something like it. The idea can genuinely work. It works on one condition. Only the state is allowed to make the coins. Muhammad did not quite lock that part down.
Wait, so if I stamp a lump of brass at home, the Sultan's treasury hands me real silver for it?
Yes, and so did everyone else. His tokens were laughably easy to copy, so the whole country started copying them by the cartload.
In my chronicle, I wrote that the house of every Hindu became a mint. I may have been exaggerating. I did rather a lot of that.
That's Ziauddin Barani, the court historian, and a man with grudges of his own. But the gist was true. The kingdom was drowning in fake coins, and real trade simply seized up. So Muhammad did something almost noble. He announced he would buy back every single token for real gold and silver, even the obvious fakes. Mountains of worthless brass piled up outside the treasury, and he paid real metal for all of it. He kept his word. It very nearly bankrupted the empire. 2 ideas in, 2 disasters. But notice the pattern. By now, the man's integrity was doing as much damage as his arrogance. Idea number 3. The treasury was bleeding, so he needed revenue. He looked at the Doab, the rich farmland between the Ganga and the Yamuna, and raised the taxes. Barani claims he raised them 10 or 20 times over. Barani also owned land there, so seasoned that number heavily. But up they went, and hard. And then the rains failed. The new taxes landed exactly as a famine took hold. The fields emptied, families starved or fled. The heartland of the empire went quiet for years. He did try to help. Food camps, loans for seed and oxen, but it came late and it came short. By any measure, it was a catastrophe. A clever plan on paper runs straight into a wall of weather and reality and human beings. People died because a brilliant man could not accept that he had misjudged. He bounced back the only way he knew how, with a bigger idea. He would conquer Central Asia itself, the rich lands of Khorasan, beyond the mountains. He raised an enormous army. The chronicles say hundreds of thousands, though they always say that. And here's the Tughlaq touch. He paid them a full year's wages, up front. Then the politics across the border shifted, the whole plan stopped making sense, and the expedition was quietly called off. The army went home. The year of wages did not. So he tried the opposite direction. An army marched up into the Himalayas, the Karachil campaign. This time, the enemy wasn't an enemy. It was the mountains. Monsoon, cold, disease, and ambush in country the army did not know. An entire army went up. Almost none of it came down. And the chroniclers, who never met a number they couldn't inflate, could barely exaggerate this one. By now, the empire had spotted the pattern, and the empire was getting nervous.
Sultan, the provinces are restless. The nobles whisper, perhaps a few fewer grand schemes just for a while.
Whisper? Who whispers? Give me their names.
His answer to doubt was force. Suspicion became arrests. Arrests became executions. The chronicles describe a court where the Sultan's own gate was the last place you ever wanted to be summoned. And the revolts came. By the standard count, more than 20 of them. Many led not by some oppressed minority, but by his own Muslim nobles and governors.
I have seen men dine with the Sultan at noon and be gone by nightfall. I have begun very quietly to pray.
And as the fear rose, the provinces did the arithmetic. If the center was this dangerous and this broke, why obey it at all? The Deep South went first, breaking away around 1335. Then, in 1336, 2 brothers founded a mighty new kingdom on the Tungabhadra River, Vijayanagara. Bengal in the east had already slipped the leash in the late 1330s. And in 1347, the Deccan nobles revolted and set up their own state, the Bahmani Sultanate. The empire he'd inherited, nearly all of India, was coming apart in his hands, faster than it had ever been won. As for our witness, Muhammad finally found a use for him. He made Ibn Battuta an ambassador and sent him off on a long, dangerous mission to China.
To China? A tremendous honor, Majesty. A wonderfully faraway honor. I'll set off at once, right now in fact.
He was shipwrecked, robbed, and nearly killed along the way. And he never really came back to Delhi. He had seen quite enough, and crucially, he had survived, which at this court made him a winner. Years later, safe and far away, he wrote it all down. Almost everything we know about this court, we know because one terrified Moroccan judge got out and kept notes. Muhammad spent his final years on horseback, chasing rebellions he could no longer win, across an empire dissolving beneath him. In 1351, hunting a rebel through the marshes of Sindh, he caught a fever. And there, far from his capital, the wisest fool died. A later historian summed up the whole reign in a single line that's honestly hard to beat. The Sultan was at last freed from his people, and they from him. The throne passed to his cousin, Firoz Shah, and Firoz had been watching. Firoz had learnt. Firoz had exactly one strategy.
Whatever my brilliant cousin would have done, we do the opposite. Lower the taxes. No grand schemes. Build things that hold water, not headlines.
And so he did. Canals, new towns, wells, gardens, rest houses. Boring, useful, deeply unglamorous things that actually worked. He even hauled ancient stone pillars across the country to decorate his new capital, which, for this family, basically counts as a relaxing weekend hobby. Now, Firoz had his own hard edges. He taxed some he hadn't before, and he was no saint. But he was cautious, careful, and genuinely beloved. And that's the cruel little joke history plays. The careful, unremarkable cousin is remembered fondly. The genius is remembered as a warning. But Firoz was patching a roof that was already caving in. After he died, the empire kept shedding provinces. Gujarat, Malwa, Jaunpur, all gone. The throne of Delhi was once again the most dangerous job in Asia. Except now, there was barely an empire left attached to it. And then, in 1398, out of the northwest, the exact direction the Tughlaqs had always feared, came a conqueror named Timur. He crossed the Indus, stormed through the Punjab, and bore down on a Delhi that could no longer defend itself. He took the city, and he destroyed it. The killing was immense. Delhi, the great prize the whole story had been fought over, was left in ruins and ash. Timur didn't even stay. He loaded the wealth and the craftsmen onto his caravans and left for Samarkand. The great empire of Delhi was, for all purposes, finished. So, what do we make of Muhammad bin Tughlaq? He wasn't stupid, that's the whole tragedy of him. He may well have been the smartest man in any room he ever walked into. And every gift he had, pushed through the certainty that he was right and reality was wrong, came out the other end as a graveyard. He moved a city and killed people on the road. He reinvented money and broke the economy. He taxed a famine. And he kept his promises so faithfully, he went broke doing it. The wisest fool. Not because he was a fool, but because being that clever and that certain turned out to be the most dangerous thing of all. He held nearly the whole of India, a genuinely magnificent empire. Genuinely. On paper. The sources and the real historians who untangle this beautiful mess are down in the description. Be kind to your interns, and maybe don't build your dad a pavilion.